Thank you, David. And now I would like to call upon Yue, Mr. Reply Speech for opposition.
So say I'm an immigrant. Whose world do I want to live in? Do I want to live in their world, where I enter a new country, foreign country, and face discrimination, xenophobia, where I can't get a job because I'm too low-skilled and I have to compete in the cutthroat, fast-paced, capitalistic world of the developed countries? Or do I want to live in our world, where we believe in a long-term solution, where we bring in investment, infrastructure, we create jobs within the developing countries, and therefore I can get a job at home, and therefore I don't face all this discrimination. In the long term, my life is better. I think it's clear whose world we want to live in. But before I even break down this debate and take a step back, let's talk about the things that they didn't deal with in today's debate. We talked about the principle of citizen priority and sovereignty. This is something they've dropped. They've only insisted it won't be so. Again, never proving to us how, never proving to us why. We also talked about how there are problems for the developed world when you take their best and their brightest, when you take their labor. Their response, really insufficient. They basically told us that, oh, that's not going to happen because it's going to happen under status quo anyway, when we've proven to you time and time again that you exacerbate the problem. Furthermore, back to the yardstick today, we've proven to you that yes, these developed countries don't have a moral obligation because of the harms to the developed world and the developing world. They haven't proven sufficiently, why not? So now, let's take a step back from this debate, shall we, and analyze this debate as a whole on two large grounds. First, on building the developing world versus destroying the developing world. And secondly, a moral duty versus an unjustified burden. Let's talk about the first large area of clash, where this idea of inequality was brought up, where they basically told us that you magically solve the problem of inequality by opening your borders, never giving to us a sufficient response of how they do so. They never gave us a proper picture of the reality of the situation. They ignored the reality that these countries live in a recession. Jobs are scarce, highly competitive. It is a knowledge-based economy. How will your immigrant compete? No response. We then talk about xenophobia, oppression, low-skilled immigrants not being able to find a job, how they're shot in the street because of the color of their skin. Therefore, you don't really solve the problem of inequality, you worsen it. It's unfair to these immigrants as well. No response. We came back anyway. We gave you a third layer of analysis, where we talked about how you widen inequality by taking the best and the brightest from these countries, the labor drain which you will put on these countries, and that's not fair, because you condemn them to developing status forever. Again, no response. We see a consistent trend here, where they refuse to clash with the developments of all our speakers, and we can't really challenge them to do anything about it, but we're pointing this out. Now let's talk about this idea of dependence. Who breeds complacency? Who breeds over-dependence? Where they basically talked about this moral obligation. How, oh, you're going to solve this dependence because you can get a job in the developed country and you can get an education. We don't see the logic link. We already came back and we talked to you about how dependence is in fact bred on their side. Why is that so? Because the spirit of complacency is bred when you have a moral obligation that you can always depend on the developed world. So let's quickly move on to this last point on moral duty versus unjustified burden, where they talked about colonialism, which became their largest point. Ghana being exploited, they deserve better. But we talked about TNCs. We talked about infrastructure. We talked about international trade and how it's a two-way process. We talked about education. We talked about economic advice, how the developed world also benefit and help the developing world through other means, and therefore there is no longer a moral obligation. No response, they only asserted and continue with the same argument throughout all their speakers. So at the end of the day, we see that our side is the more compassionate one, because our side wouldn't let the developing world fester, our side wouldn't hurt these immigrants, our side wouldn't hurt the people in the developed world.
Thank you, opposition. And now I would like to call forth the final speaker of this debate, Nikki.
What the Team Singapore stands for is the current situation, the closed borders, the exploitation of developing countries. And I'm asking you, why we see people suffering? Why we see people coming to developed countries from developing, even though the team of Singapore is claiming they do not have a better life there? Because of what we see today, we believe that the Team Slovakia should win, because it stands at the right side of morality. Because everyone, from time to time, does something that is not beneficial from him, that's something that brought drawbacks. But he does it because it's ethical, because it's moral, and because it makes him a human. So we believe that there's a reason why the team of Slovakia won. We believe that the team of Singapore focused on the practicalities and never responded to the values that we brought. And we believe that these values, the high values, are worth all the drawbacks that we brought, because we believe that even at the price of harms, we provide people with equal opportunity for a decent life. We help people on the point if the people are going to be better or not. We believe that they do, because we see people coming to these countries because they are living in poverty, because they are dying of hunger. The situation is really dire and poor. And in the developed countries, they have a chance to find a job at least. For example, even working at the minimum wage is a better situation for them than they do experience in their developing in their homeland. So we are helping, and even if they continue in their dire situation, we believe that it's right that they are not restricted of their life for a decent life. Because what the team of Singapore failed to do was to answer to the question, what had people from developed country do more so they deserve a better life than the people from developing? And then we believe that that's the reason why we also are winning this motion. Also, we do by our policy, we compensate what we have caused during the era of colonialism and now. We think that the harms are the right and just fair price at which the developed countries grow. And it's not about which countries colonize and not, because this is linked, because those countries who maybe not were colonizers directly benefited from those who developed. So we see this direct link that the developing countries suffered, and because of the injustices and greed of the Western world that caused that they are now poor, they weren't able to develop, and they are suffering from poverty. And we have to atone our mistake that we have done. So we believe that also from this point of responsibility, we should open our borders to immigrants. And on the point of the drawbacks and benefits, I believe that their immigration brought some benefits and brought some drawbacks, but we do not really have to focus on them, because they are not relevant at the price of equality and the price of giving everybody the same chance for a decent life. And we believe that the drawbacks, that the broadening, that we are hurting economy, that we are hurting sovereignty, are just they were rebuffed from outside, because we believe that we can harm, or we believe that this immigration is not going to harm this country to such extent. It is exaggeration of the situation, because we have seen, for example, in Europe, when the European Union opened its borders to some poor countries, we haven't seen any influx. We haven't seen a European Union breaking down. So we believe that this is an exaggeration of a situation, and we believe that it do not bring such harms that would somehow give us a right to close our borders. And so I believe that the team of Slovakia wins the motion, because stands on the right of the morality, of the ethicality, which should win in this debate. Thank you.
I would like to thank both teams for this debate, and now call up Maya for some closing comments.
Dear ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed the debate as I did. And now I would like to announce a 15-minute break for you to rest, and also for our judges to come to their decision. Thank you very much.